Imagine waking up one morning in 2026 to your phone exploding with alerts. Live satellite footage shows massive explosions ripping across Iran, not just hidden nuclear bunkers, but military bases, oil refineries, and major cities. U.S. carrier strike groups dominate the Persian Gulf. Cruise missiles rain down relentlessly. Gas prices at your local pump double overnight. Stock markets tank. Your group chat is blowing up. Is this the start of World War III? If that vision gave you chills, it should. Because today, we're exploring one of the most dangerous what-if scenarios imaginable. What if Donald Trump orders a full-scale military assault on Iran in 2026? This isn't fiction. It's a realistic, forward-thinking simulation built directly on what happened in June 2025 when Trump launched limited strikes on Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. He called it a complete obliteration. Iran called it superficial damage. And now, the world is more on edge than ever. We'll examine every angle: military, economic, geopolitical, environmental, humanitarian, and social, with special focus on the roles of neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iraq, and Pakistan, Israel, Europe, Russia, and China. Don't click away. The chain reactions we're about to uncover could change how you see tomorrow's headlines forever. Let's dive in. And trust me, the twists will keep you here until the end. Let's start with the hard facts from 2025. In June, US B-2 bombers and Tomahawk missiles struck Iran's 3 primary nuclear sites. Trump declared victory, but IAEA reports and commercial satellite imagery revealed the truth. Damage was serious, but limited. Iran quickly relocated centrifuges, resumed enrichment to near weapons-grade levels, 83.7% at Fordow, and activated new underground facilities like Pickaxe Mountain. Iran's retaliation was measured, a limited missile barrage on U.S. bases in Iraq, but its proxies, Houthi, Hezbollah, escalated attacks. By December 2025, Trump is repeatedly warning that any rebuilding of the nuclear program will trigger far more decisive measures. Analysts at RAND and Politico see a clear path to escalation. If indirect talks collapse, currently a roughly 50% chance per CFR estimates, and Iran crosses another red line, say 90% enrichment or a major proxy strike, Trump could authorize a broader campaign in 2026 aimed not only at neutralizing the nuclear threat, but at crippling Iran's military and economy to force regime change. Key players are already positioning themselves: Israel as primary partner, Saudi Arabia and Turkey as potential allies, Europe anxious about energy security, Russia and China as Iran's backers. The terrifying question: how would this actually unfold? Stay with me. The simulation begins now, and it's more intense than you expect. Spring 2026. Trump greenlights Operation Eagle Liberty, a full-scale air, naval, and cyber campaign. Unlike the surgical 2025 strikes, this is total shock and awe. Day 1. Hundreds of cruise missiles and stealth bombers obliterate remaining nuclear sites. Days 2 to 3. Strikes expand to Revolutionary Guard bases, missile factories, and critical oil infrastructure. Karg Island, Abadan Refinery, South Pars gas field. Week 2 onward, cyber operations cripple power grids. Limited ground incursions from Iraq secure key areas if needed. Iran retaliates fiercely. Thousands of ballistic missiles target Israel, Saudi Arabia, and U.S. bases. The Strait of Hormuz is mined and attacked, disrupting 20% of global oil flows. Hezbollah unleashes its 150,000 rocket arsenal on Israel. Houthis choke Red Sea shipping. Now the roles of other nations. Israel, fully engaged partner. Brookings scenarios show Israeli jets striking Syrian and Lebanese targets to neutralize Hezbollah supply lines, while absorbing heavy rocket fire despite Iron Dome. Saudi Arabia opens air bases to U.S. forces, as promised in 2025 defense pacts. but risks devastating Iranian strikes on Aramco facilities, potentially repeating the 2019 Abqaiq attack on a larger scale. Turkey closes borders to refugees, expands operations in Syria against Iran-backed militias and Kurdish groups. As a NATO member, it could trigger Article 5 obligations if directly attacked, pulling Europe in. Iraq becomes a primary battleground. Iran-backed Shia militias launch uprisings against U.S. troops, turning the country into chaos similar to 2003 to 2011. Pakistan worries about spillover, refugee waves, border instability, and potential Indian opportunism if Iran weakens. Europe, EU, and UK condemns escalation but faces energy nightmare. Chatham House analyses predict Europe pushing harder sanctions while quietly urging restraint to protect LNG and oil routes. Russia and China, the axis of autocracy. Russia supplies advanced air defenses and possibly hypersonic weapons. China provides economic lifelines and dual-use tech, prolonging Iran's resistance. Initial casualties: tens of thousands across the region per CFR war games. But this is just the beginning. What happens when the conflict spirals into a regional war? Hold on tight. The immediate fallout is devastating. Militarily, the US-led coalition dominates the skies, but Iran's asymmetric arsenal inflicts painful losses. RAND estimates 500 to 1,000 coalition casualties in the first weeks. Israel's cities endure heavy bombardment. Saudi oil infrastructure takes hits. Iraq descends into militia warfare. Humanitarian disaster. Tens of thousands of Iranian civilians killed or wounded. Radiation leaks render areas uninhabitable. Millions flee, overwhelming Turkey and Pakistan's borders and straining European asylum systems. Economically, global markets panic. Oil surges past $150 per barrel. Gas prices double in the US and triple in Europe. Inflation spikes 5 to 10% worldwide. Europe, heavily reliant on Gulf energy, faces deep recession. Saudi Arabia loses production but gains from higher prices. Iran's economy collapses. Hyperinflation over 200%. Mass protests threaten the regime. You won't believe how deep the long-term scars run. Keep watching. Geopolitically, the world polarizes. Russia and China deepen ties with Tehran, possibly sharing nuclear umbrella or advanced weapons. Saudi Arabia and Turkey accelerate their own nuclear ambitions, igniting a Middle East arms race. Israel strengthens defenses but faces internal divisions. Iraq risks fragmentation along sectarian lines. Europe debates NATO commitments if Turkey is drawn in deeper. Globally, GDP contracts 1 to 2%. The green energy transition accelerates out of necessity, but short-term poverty surges across oil-dependent regions. Environmentally catastrophic. Massive oil spills rival the 1991 Gulf War. Radiation contaminates the Persian Gulf ecosystem for decades. Downstream nations like Saudi Arabia and Pakistan suffer polluted water and fisheries collapse, fueling climate migration through 2030. Socially, Iran's regime faces existential protests, possible collapse or hardened repression. Anti-war movements erupt in the US and Europe. Israel sees domestic unrest. Refugee waves spark far-right backlash across Europe. Global anti-American sentiment boosts terrorism recruitment. The ultimate danger? This doesn't eliminate Iran's nuclear capability. It may drive it underground or into Russia's orbit. Let's look further ahead. From a forward-thinking lens, a full-scale assault resolves the immediate nuclear threat but creates far worse long-term problems. RAND gives a 60% probability that Iran either acquires a bomb by 2028 or gains Russian nuclear protection. Possible futures. Best case, approximately 30%. Saudi and Israeli-backed regime change leads to a pro-Western government and renewed diplomacy by 2027. Most likely, approximately 50%. Prolonged attrition war drains U.S. resources like a new Afghanistan. Worst case, approximately 20%. Strait of Hormuz closure draws in China economically or militarily, risking great power confrontation. Europe may pivot harder toward Russian energy or renewables. Turkey could play mediator or expand regional influence. Russia might deprioritize Ukraine to focus on the Middle East. China deepens Belt and Road ties with surviving Iranian factions. The core lesson from every serious simulation? Military action without robust diplomacy creates bigger monsters. By 2030, we could face a multipolar nuclear Middle East where smaller powers go atomic. Mind-blowing, right? In the end, a full-scale U.S. attack on Iran in 2026 could ignite global chaos. Skyrocketing energy costs, humanitarian catastrophe, regional arms race, and heightened risk of wider war, with pivotal roles for Israel, active partner, Saudi Arabia, target and ally, Turkey and Iraq, battlegrounds, Europe, energy victim, Pakistan, spillover risk, and Russia, China, Iran's backers. This simulation, rooted in real 2025 events, isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to make us think critically about the future. What do you think Trump would or should do? Would your country get involved? Drop your thoughts below. Let's have a real conversation. If this video shifted your perspective, smash like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more in-depth what-if explorations. Thank you for staying until the end. Now share this so others can grapple with these possibilities too. See you in the next one.